Well, welcome to the Redmen TV. Of course, I'm Chris Pajak and I'm joined by the ugly inside. The Southampton Fan Channel, if you've not seen them, go and check them out. We've kept an eye on you. We've done a collaboration last season. Content's looking pretty good, mate. You must be sick to death of Liverpool coming calling though now.
Oh, absolutely, mate. I mean, not just the red side, but now the blue side too. Obviously, Ronald has trodden that path up to Merseyside. I'm sure, a lot of Saints fans out there would, ultimately disappointed, but would be naive to say that it wasn't coming.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? I mean, I don't want to get too much into the shite, to be perfectly honest with you, but look, Liverpool have signed a lot of players from Southampton. Is Mané any different to the others? Is he better than some of the others that we've signed?
Well, he's a bit of an I can't even say it, an enigma. There we go, got it. But yeah, he goes missing sort of for 6 months of the season. Only plays for 3 months of those. But look, when he does turn up, he'll score you double digits, 12 goals at least, perhaps even more, up to 15, of 16, 17 in all competitions. He's devastating on the counter-attack, and what you'll get is a big game player, because he turned up against you guys in that 3-2 comeback. He scored a couple of goals and was probably man of the match against some of the other bigger teams, against Man City as well.
Man City, he scored a hat-trick against them.
That's right, yeah, he scored a hat-trick against Man City. He has the ability to turn a game on its head, and if you're an underdog in a game, perhaps, although you'll be unlikely to be an underdog next season, because I would say, in my opinion, you're probably one of the favourites for the title, because you've got no European competitions, you've got no pressure on you in other competitions. But look, Mané is a player that can turn a game on his head. He can score you 2 or 3 goals in a game, and we saw that, obviously this season and also last season, scoring the quickest hat-trick in Premier League history.
Yeah, so what do you think? How do you think he'll be used by Jurgen Klopp? Where do you think he'll be used?
Well, I mean, it's interesting to find out really where he'll play, because I understand that Klopp likes to play a 4-3-3, sort of a narrowish formation. But I would only assume that he'll probably stick behind Sturridge up top, and then maybe sit behind him. And I would say that his best position for us last season was behind the centre forward as a number 10 or a second striker in a 4-4-1-1.
That's interesting. I mean, a lot of the time last season we did tend to play a 4-2-3-1 with 3 players behind Daniel Sturridge. Phil Coutinho came from the left, Roberto Firmino in the centre, and Adam Lallana on the right. If you were to put him in that formation, where do you think he'd fit, and who do you think he'd replace?
So you've got Lallana, Firmino, and Coutinho. I would personally replace him with Firmino. I don't think Firmino's got enough pace on the break, but I mean, you could also argue that the rest of them don't really. I mean, Lallana's a very technical, right, a very skilled player. Coutinho, again, can score goals from 25, 30 yards out and can change a game on its head too. But look, on the counter-attack, and I'm sure that's probably what Klopp might be setting up for next season. Mané is devastating on the counter-attack, and he's so tricky at getting the ball off him, because he's got such a low centre of gravity. He's not the tallest of players, and he's got, he can duck and dive in between players and somehow keep the ball at his feet.
So what do you think? Obviously, we all know about his pace. What do you think his main sort of attribute is that will help us on the counter-attack?
I mean, you have to say probably taking the players on, knocking the ball past him, and just sort of, beating the player on his pace. And then he's often found himself one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and you'd have to say that you would back him unless there's a top-class goalkeeper in the likes of
De Gea or something
like
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you saw for yourself this season, well, last season, he scored 3 goals against Joe Hart. The best English goalkeeper, obviously number 1 for England, and probably one of the best in the league as well. I mean, if it were, I think the only goalkeepers that in the Premier League perhaps you wouldn't back him scoring against is obviously De Gea, and maybe you could even put Lloris in that bracket.
Okay, well, what about his work rate? I think, Klopp, it's well publicised, likes to play a high-pressing game. Is that something that Mané could fit into?
I'm not too sure, to be honest, because sometimes he really doesn't track back at all. But he plays high up the pitch, and often, you could compare it to the way Leicester played last season. Mm-hmm. He'll be devastating on a long ball counter-attack. You'll definitely back him against, obviously, the fullbacks. But I'm not sure he'll be up for the high pressing game. Perhaps he could become an impact player, but at 34, rising to 38, 36, whatever it is, you'd expect him to start every single game.
That's it, isn't it? That was the one concern. I think another one, obviously, is we've not mentioned, is his inconsistency throughout the season. He does tend to go missing for large chunks, doesn't he?
That's right. Yeah, he didn't actually turn up in the winter months. Sandwich between the two games when you hammered us 6-1 in the League Cup, and then he turned up again midway through March. He's very, you could say he's an inconsistent player. But when he is consistent, he's consistently good. He can score you, 6 goals in 6 games if he's on fire. Well, that could be a new chance. Sadio Mané is on fire.
It's been done, mate. It's been done, hasn't it? What about, obviously, he's a Senegalese international. We've got the African Cup of Nations coming up. It's likely that he won't be here over the winter months anyway. I think January he could be going for a month or something. Final thoughts then. Is it a good or a bad signing for Liverpool?
Look, I would say it's probably a good signing for you, but my only concern obviously is his inconsistency, what we've obviously sort of touched upon just a moment ago. But if Klopp can get him working week in, week out, get him playing for himself, there were rumours that he had discipline problems. He turned up late a few times, and that's why he was dropped a few times last season.
It was against us. Was it the season before he was dropped? Koeman dropped him against us.
I think he might have been dropped once this season and once in the previous season before that. But that's partly down to Ronald Koeman as a disciplinarian. He likes his players to be on time, and Sadio Mané obviously didn't get there on time, and that's the way the cookie crumbles for Koeman. Really, you have to abide by the rules or you're out. Obviously Pella got dropped as well for his attitude, and Wanyama also got dropped for his attitude because earlier on in the season he tried to push a move to Arsenal and Spurs. So now that we've got a new manager coming in, I have full faith in our recruitment policy, because ultimately that's what we do as Southampton. We buy these players for a low fee, we develop them, and they go on to be, you could say top class, world class players, especially in the likes of Gareth Bale, the most expensive transfer in the world now. But I have full faith in our recruitment policy, and I will say we will march on again.
Cool. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining me, mate. I really appreciate it. Thanks very much for watching as well. Let me know in the comments section what you think of the Sadio Mané transfer. Do you think he's going to be good for Liverpool? Do you think he's going to flop? And don't forget to check out The Ugly Inside. All the links to that channel, of course, will be in the description. Thank you very much for joining me, mate.